The fight against corruption gets tougher, with acting president soliciting cooperation to achieve desired results. Celebrations over police killing of one of the most wanted armed robbers and kidnapper. Plus, INEC receives report recommending disciplinary action for staff. These and more on today's Panorama. I am Ogwa Vivian Ungedibia. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo has solicited the cooperation of the international community on the country's fight against corruption. The acting president made the appeal while declaring open a national dialogue on corruption. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports.
The cooperation of the international community, as explained by the acting president, is of great importance to the success of the anti-corruption war, especially in hastening the return of looted funds and assets to the country.
We find that the process of returning assets, aside from the judicial process, is so difficult and so complicated that it could just take you literally years to get assets returned. And I think that is important for countries of the world where stolen assets are located to really work with us in ensuring that these assets are returned speedily. It should be made clear that corrupt practices will not only be punished wherever they are found, but that stolen assets will be returned speedily. These sorts of things should really be fast-tracked.
Acting President Yemi Osinbajo observed that no nation is immune to corrupt practices, stressing that Nigerians must be determined not to allow corruption to thrive in the country. The acting president urged participants to fashion out a model that can assist in solving the problem once and for all. The National Dialogue on Corruption is organized by the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption.
Corruption is omnipresent in Nigeria. What is extremely disturbing is the fact that the people's attitude to corruption has hardened. There is no longer any fear of consequences.
It is the unparalleled determination of this administration to succeed in the fight against corruption, including the determination to retrieve from abroad and at home the huge mind-boggling monies which were stolen from our country's commonwealth. And we have to commend that.
That the Nigerian judiciary remains very much committed and in complete support of the efforts at curbing corruption in Nigeria.
That the Ministry of Justice and indeed all the administration of justice institutions would stand ready to diligently implement all the outcome of this dialogue as may be decided by government.
The two-day program will involve participants drawn from all sectors, including the civil society, dialoguing on such themes as meaning and conceptions of corruption, including types, effects, and obstacles to effective fight against corruption, Nigeria's socio-economic order, the reward system, the political party system, pattern of legal and judicial system, and elite manipulation of religion and ethnicity. From the banquet hall of the State House, Jide Onifade, NT News.
Inspector General of Police Ibrahim Idris says the administration's fight against corruption must be supported by all Nigerians. He stated this while interacting with members of the entertainment industry under the aegis of Voice of Change Nigeria. Timothy Yusuf reports.
No matter what they say, they can never pull you down.
The visit of members of the entertainment industry to the IGP was essentially to seek protection in a rally to be organized by them across the 36 states of the Federation in support of the Buhari administration's fight against corruption, which they described as a fight to finish. The visiting members cut across Performing Musician Association of Nigeria, PMAN, Actors Guild of Nigeria, National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, Civil Society Groups and Association of Local Government of Nigeria, ALGON.
The only way forward for Nigeria is to kill corruption, or corruption will kill Nigeria.
The Inspector General of Police reiterated his commitment to fighting corruption. He assured members of the Voice of Change Nigeria that all the commissioners of police in charge of state commands will be directed to provide adequate security for the group during their rallies.
You are in a vintage position to pass messages across. that Nigeria is the only country we have, and we cannot have the comfort to toy with the destinies of this country.
In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
To legislative matters now. The Senate has commended the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, for strengthening the powers of community parliament in line with international best practices. National Assembly correspondent Waziri Zayanu reports that this followed a motion moved by Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu.
In the motion, Senator Ike Ekweremadu said enhancement of the powers of the parliament, which is a major advancement towards democratization of governance of the sub-regional body, also helps in promoting checks and balance. He called for the amendment of the Electoral Act of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to empower the Independent National Electoral Commission to conduct elections to fill the nation's 35 seats at the ECOWAS Parliament.
The fourth legislature of the Community Parliament had continued with relentless effort towards realizing the enhancement of the powers of the Parliament. We receive with joy and immense pleasure the eventual endorsement of the ECOWAS Supplementary Act A/SA/1/12/16 relating to the enhancement of the powers of the ECOWAS Parliament by the 50th Ordinary Session.
In another motion, Senator Gasham Bassi appealed to the federal government to properly resettle the Bakassi people through a participatory and properly negotiated resettlement program.
The failure to resettle and compensate the people of Bakassi has made them refugees in their homeland, with no form of livelihood and hope for posterity.
Two bills have been passed by the Senate after sailing through third reading. They include the Advanced Free Fraud and Other Related Offences Act Amendment Bill 2017, as well as the Petroleum Training Institute Act Amendment Bill 2017. From the National Assembly, Wazir Zayan, NTA News.
The House of Representatives has passed for second reading a bill for an act to establish the National Council for Public Assistance to the Elderly, Widows and Orphans. The bill, sponsored by 6 members, seeks to enshrine social security in Nigeria's constitution. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports.
In liberal democracies, the welfare of the vulnerable in the society is an integral part of the functions of government. As important as this is, the state of the well-being of this group is always a major criteria for measuring national development. It is in line with this that 6 members of the House of Representatives seek the establishment of a government body that will ensure the well-being of this group.
Categorically, to provide public assistance and aid to widows.
What the Social Security and Welfare Bill does, Mr. Speaker, is to provide a safety net for the citizenry.
This bill centers on the functions of the local government.
We'll go ahead and do it, then it now becomes the responsibility of the judiciary to say that the law contravenes the Constitution.
Members also beamed their searchlight on the operations of automated teller machines in banks. The House, in a motion moved by Representative Joseph Edionwole from Edo State, resolved to investigate alleged sharp practices in the services of ATM.
Eliminating the incidence of debits without dispensation of cash.
It is the bank that uses every avenue to exploit the customer.
Financial requirement from students at the law school featured at the House as members described law school fees as exorbitant. The House mandates its relevant committees to interface with the Nigerian Law School and other stakeholders to address the matter, as moved by Representative Mark Bila from Benue State.
For an institution that is funded annually by the federal government,
find out that they don't have more than 5-7 lecturers. So where are they? What is this money meant for?
A new member was sworn in. He is Representative Jerome Amadieke of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. He represents Eche Omuma Federal Constituency of Rivers State. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Talking security now, the need for greater vigilance and coordination of sting operations by security forces in Africa has been highlighted to surmount the new threats of insurgency and terrorism in the region. This is the suggestion of President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta of Mali while hosting the Commandant National Defense College, Rear Admiral Samuel Alade, and participants of NDC Course 29 on a study tour to Mali. Defense correspondent Isaac Nkuma reports from Bamako.
Upholding the recent success of the Nigerian military against Boko Haram,
President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta noted that the new tactics of asymmetric warfare by terrorists is very challenging, hence the need to collaborate on intelligence gathering. He gave example of a recent collaboration between Nigerian and Malian intelligence services, which unmasked a notorious terrorist network in the region. President Keïta called for daily consultation among the different security apparatus in the West African sub-region, as this will go a long way in addressing insecurity.
Because the way that doing this will be able to reinforce our intelligence services in coordinating, in adapting, and in utilizing our intelligence forces and our intelligence services.
He also advocated the regional special forces to tackle terrorism, drug trafficking, and trafficking in persons, as they are transnational crimes. The Commandant National Defense College, Rear Admiral Samuel Alade, is optimistic that the study tour will assist the participants in analyzing security and socio-cultural challenges of the region and formulating strategies in addressing them.
My government back home, gouvernement une fois à la maison, is also taking steps to address the challenges of economic recession. Les défis économiques. Specifically, efforts are being made to ensure that Nigeria takes its proper place le Nigeria est la terre idéale in contributing to international peace and security.
The NDC contingent to Mali also visited the International Institute for Peace, where they were briefed on the activities and programs of the center in the protection of civilians in conflict areas and its intention to expand its scope to de-radicalization and reintegration of ex-militants. From Bamako, Mali, Isaac Nkuma, NTA News.
And strict adherence to the rules of engagement by the Nigerian army is a doctrine that protects human rights during internal and external operations. Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai said this when he discussed with a delegation from the National Human Rights Commission. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa has details.
Insurgency and inevitable counter-insurgency that began in 2009 in northeast Nigeria led to the death, displacement, and the perceived abuse of rights of many Nigerians. The first reported case of alleged human rights abuse in the region was in 2011.
The Commission is pleased to acknowledge that the Nigerian Army is already conscious of the need to carry out the counter-insurgency operations with utmost respect for human rights, as this is beneficial to the Army and Nigeria in general.
We will continue to make ourselves available to the Human Rights Commission. We don't have anything to hide. First and foremost, as I mentioned, our code of conduct and rules of engagement to the Nigerian people, to protect them, to make sure that their rights are protected.
The Commission's Program Implementation Committee is putting measures to entrench human rights accountability in the Northeast. The Army Chief also received the U.S. and Ukrainian ambassadors to Nigeria, who promised to expand military ties with Nigeria. Ismail Musa, NTA News.
And still on security, the Nigerian police has made another breakthrough in the fight against kidnapping and other criminal acts, with the killing of Henry Chibueze, also known as Vampire, a notorious kidnapping kingpin who recently escaped from the custody of prison warders in a court in Owerri, Imo State. The police spokesperson, Jim Omoshud, says Vampire was killed early hours of yesterday in Omuawa Forest in Ikwere local government area of Rivers State during a gun battle with police special forces. 5 members of the gang, Obinna Ella, Arinze Abecheta, Chukwebuka Ike Azota, Samuel Ugochukwu, and Clifford Ahiana were arrested and are now in police custody.
The principal suspect in this regard, Henry Chibueze, aka Vampire, have been a terror in this state and the neighboring state around this period in time. The IGP concerned by this deployed the special forces to track him.
To seek for
afternoon and welcome to the live telecast of events of the Day 2 of the National Dialogue on Corruption put together by the Office of the Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, in collaboration with the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, coming to you live on the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, the undisputed largest network in Africa. Venue is the banquet hall of the Presidential Villa, Abuja. Yesterday, at the opening session, critical issues such as meaning and conception of corruption, including types, effects, and obstacles to effective fight against corruption, as well as Nigeria's socio-economic order and economic relations, the reward system, and character of the federal system of government were looked into. Good afternoon. You're welcome once again. I am KG Busari Ahmed on behalf of the Outside Broadcast crew.
Islam, traditional religion, to have places of honor whereby they can always fall back to, or using him to penetrate into the government cycle. Number 2, religious leaders are not spirits. They are human beings. They can be deceived by somebody approaching them and pretending to be righteous wherever he is walking. And by so doing, he receives the blessing of the person, of the priest. Number 3, we have an ideal that all that we have been discussing since yesterday is that a religious priest must be bold enough, summon moral courage to ask when he is a bit confused as to what resources available to so person before him. How is he getting his money? Why is he coming for Thanksgiving? Why is he seeking for so position? We must always be bold enough to do that without embarrassing anybody. But then, because religious leaders are also corrupt, sometimes they know that somebody's salary is not up to that. But because you can build a mosque or you can build a church free and give the key to the religious priest, he is willing to accept whatever you bring without asking you. That is also there. So as we discuss this, the manipulation, why are the religious people manipulated? Are they being deceived, or they know the truth, but they wouldn't take the truth in order to make things work for their own benefits? These are the things that we have to discuss. Then finally, we shall discuss how to lead our youth, because leadership begins at home. Then you move to the primary schools and secondary schools. When you start at home, you continue in primary school, you develop a child properly in secondary school, and the child gets matured in tertiary institution, gets matured, and possibly through experience, he may have additional qualification. That's why we're talking about leading the youth. So while we are thinking of this, please concern yourselves with this. We have so many things, but we cannot discuss all within 1 hour and 30 minutes given to us. Am I clear? Am I clear? Right, so we now ask our men. We have men of intelligence, integrity, well-educated, renounced in their various levels. So I will ask that Mr. Honor of NUJ should throw some lights. Is he here?
Sorry, sir, can you just follow the program?
Right from the beginning?
Yes.
Not starting from.
Professor Shoyombo is the first person.
Okay.
We don't have 1.5 hours. We have an hour.
Right. We should not take anybody by surprise. Let's go one by one. I started from the bottom. Now, we have Professor Omololu. Is he here? Please give him the mic. Let him throw some lights.
Thank you, Chairman.
5 minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Well, the issue about elite manipulation of religion, ethnicity, and then youth development. Well, the elite component, I think, clearly indicates or suggests that the elites are a major problem in Nigeria. And this has been said many times by people, that leadership is a major problem for contemporary Nigeria. Various categories of elites: political elites, administrative elites, military elites, religious elites, judiciary elites, economic elites. And in their various positions, they often manipulate religious and ethnic sentiments, and usually for their self-interest. Although they couch this as if they are representing or fighting for the interest of other people, the generality of the people, but when everything is critically examined, it is for their selfish interests and nothing beyond that. And I think it's important that we know this and be able to work on this. When we talk of the manipulation, this can manifest in various ways. Oftentimes, when seeking appointments into positions, when people fail to get desired appointments, then they tend to turn to religious and ethnic sentiments, that they were denied the appointment because they are from this religious group or from that religious group, or because they are from this ethnic background or from another ethnic background. Also, oftentimes, in the allocation of resources, budgetary allocation, community development projects, roads, hospitals, and so on, then we also resort to ethnic sentiments to justify why we should have more of whatever it is. And there's also the tendency to ascribe ethnicity into all matters in the country. It's not unusual, as we know, for people to seek endorsements by religious leaders, by ethnic leaders, when they are seeking appointments into positions. And it cuts across virtually everybody, all categories of elites. Even when people want to go to Senate for screening or whatever it is, what they first of all do will probably be to talk to people from their constituency so that they can get a soft landing, or people who can talk to them at that level. But apart from the very clear ones, it can also be said that people also manipulate ethnic and religious sentiments for very frivolous reasons, oftentimes to cause distraction for the government, so that whatever the government is doing, then they ascribe ethnic and religious sentiments. And I will also say it's not just ethnic and religious sentiments that the elites manipulate. Increasingly, we also know that the elites are also manipulating judicial influence. When they have a case or whatever it is, then they still try to see a way by which they can have access to the judge so that something can be said in their favor. And various issues in the country, various problems that people have often introduced religious and ethnic sentiments into. But rather than looking at the issue itself, this also makes it impossible for people to directly analyze and find solutions to problems. When we talk of the issue of the Fulani herdsmen, for instance, is it a religious matter? Is it an ethnic issue? But oftentimes, when issues like that arise in various parts of the country, then we, to serve our personal interests, various interests of the elites, they mention issues. The Boko Haram problem, is it a religious matter? Is it an ethnic issue or a criminal matter? So we should be able to separate issues. And also, religious institutions also use ethnic influences for their own interests. A clear one is the recent one about the Financial Reporting Council, and people have talked severally about the need for regulation of religious activities in the country, so that whatever it is, when there is a law, regardless of the ethnic background, regardless of the religious background of individuals, then people should just follow the law as it is. Although that's also not to say that there are oftentimes there's no basis for the complaints that people have. So I think the important thing in this regard is also for the government and people in government to do things in a fair and impartial way, so that which will not give or allow room for misinterpretation of their intentions. Then talking about solutions in this regard, one I would say is the need to reduce the use of ethnic and religious backgrounds in appointments and in allocation of resources. Well, also the need for us to pay more emphasis on competence, qualification of particular individuals, antecedents, what the person has done, what the person is able to do, rather than the ethnic or religious background of the person. And a good one in this regard is perhaps the need for us to review this idea of the quota system. I believe the quota system should be able to assist people up to a point, but it should not be a permanent or lifelong benefit that people will enjoy, so that we should try to develop people, encourage people to develop, rather than having to fall back on their primordial interests. On the issue, the aspect of leadership and youth development, well, I think we also need to review the development process and upbringing process. Go back to our schools, review our curriculum, the study of history, the study of civil studies, citizenship, and leadership programs for young people right from that age, so that they can begin to understand what is expected of them as citizens of the country. And as they grow up, then they will be able to know more about this. In terms of talking about solutions, I believe so much has been said, but a major one, I think, is the political will to do the right thing. And all that we've been saying here today, people will say, well, we know the solutions, but the will for the government and the officials to do the right thing, so that all that we are saying will not come back again next year or in 2 years' time and be repeating the same things again. So concrete steps can be taken. We've talked about so many things, for instance, reversal of presumption of innocence. But just 1 minute, sir. President Obasanjo, when he was in government, told his advisors that they were free to advise him, but that he was also free to take their advice or not to take their advice. Also, these ones that we are talking about, so many recommendations, whether the government will take the recommendations and act on them or not is also a different matter, but I think we also need to work on this. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Your hands for him. It's major problems in Nigeria, especially that it has to do with employment, federal or state allocation, cases in court, land disputes, and issues of herdsmen. Where do they belong? Is it religious or trouble or ethnicity? Now, we will go to the next question. We'll go to another person. You see, ethnicity has to do with nepotism, especially when they're talking about work, employment, and so on and so forth. It has to do with nepotism. You are fired, not moving in the offices. Promotion not forthcoming. But somebody who just was employed last year is now being promoted over you. And these things are things that language, areas, tribalism, and we have major tribes here. The Igbos, the Yorubas, the Hausas, and then the minors are also there. Sometimes the minors suffer, especially when it comes to election. You discover that ethnicity plays a much role. So our brother Emmanuel Ubaja of NUC, NLC, please throw some light.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity, and Parker for also the opportunity to have a voice on the current discourse. For me, I don't intend to take coal to Enugu or Newcastle, wherever coal is found. I take it as a notorious fact that the elite have already manipulated religion and ethnicity in Nigeria to our detriment. It's an open sore that we're waiting for truth to heal. Clearly, I'll rather quickly try to profile my own answers to how to curb the scourge. And for me, clearly, the takeoff point is education. We must fight for free and compulsory education, at least to the secondary school level, being able to get up to SS3 certificate, free compulsory education for every Nigerian child. Because the way we've been manipulated, my reverend, I'm a Christian, my reverend, while I was in primary school, told us through the Sunday school that heavenly race is an individual race. But clearly the elite have made it a collective race. We need to return religion back to an individual race. The idea of the state using our collective money to sponsor a few people on pilgrimage should stop. We should allow individuals to seek God and worship God as individuals, not as a collective. Also, with regards to the issue of corruption, the position of a living and decent wage can never be overemphasized. And that is why when a wise man speaks, people should pick what the wise man has said very clearly. The takeoff point for this program was the acting president's desire to have us copy good examples. And while he was looking for good examples outside the shores of the country, he gave us a clear example of what he did in Lagos. And what he did in Lagos, part of the strong pillar was the improvement on remuneration. And each time minimum wage is mentioned in Nigeria, people want to pull back the pressure by talking about recession. You won't come out of recession if you don't pay decent wages. The fact of people talking about infrastructure every step of the way, that is where they pack up the corrupt tendencies and then turn back and say the civil servant is the harbinger of corruption. We should focus on decent wages, focus on living wages, which is remunerating appropriately for work done. There won't be enough money then left for anybody to steal. I also will want a position where we respect merit above quota system, above rotation. I don't believe in rotation, whether at zonal, state, or local government level. A bad leader is a bad leader. If I come from a local government that has already produced a governor who did not tar the road of my local government, I then have to wait for 16 or 18 years to have the thing come back before the road will be tarred, because we're encouraging quota system and lack of merit. That is what the elite has manipulated us into believing, that you need to rotate for there to be development. I don't think that should be the way to go. When you are sick, you don't look for a doctor from your local government. The Nigerian president has proved that by going to England to seek medical attention. He didn't wait here to be treated in Katsina or to be treated in Abuja. We should stick to merit. That is the way to go. And I also don't buy the idea of blackmailing religious leaders. I hold religious leaders highly, even if they don't hold themselves highly. I was rather embarrassed that yesterday a motion was put that there should be 1 full month of sermons on corruption, and we said we accepted. The church I attend, it is God who talks to the religious leader on what he tells us, not a politician, not a professor, not anybody. What you preach every Sunday or Friday is a message that ordinarily should be inspired from God. And when we begin to blackmail leaders to do things that suits us in the name of religion, I feel that is part of elite manipulation of religious and ethnicity. So
thank you very much.
My plea then will be ultimately that, like Professor Panashe said yesterday, what we need is a revolutionary change of direction. Where we are moving won't take us to anywhere. The chairman of the session yesterday talked about his kid not wanting to come back to Nigeria. We have several houses in the hinterland, mansions, that are occupied every Christmas by elderly men of above 70 with all their children in London and the US, unable to come back because they have hurt the system. They will tell you they'll be kidnapped, there is no road, no light, no water. The decision for us to have things done is to be done here. I thank you.
Right. Give right education. Never use money for particular set of people in privilege. Respect merit. And don't accuse religious leaders falsely. In fact, when you do that, I don't see anybody without religion in this place. You are either a Muslim or a Christian. And there are no atheists in Nigeria. They are telling lies. They just tell you we don't believe in God, but when something happens to them, they say God. They call the name of God. So they don't exist. Though, as I said earlier, those who are bothered go to the traditionalists to solve their problems. So everybody believes in one God or the other. If you believe in the God of thunder, it's a religion. If you believe God of water, it's religion. Religion means a belief in a deity. Thank you very much. We move on to our TUC Comrade Hassan Anka.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anka. Want you to talk about preparing the youths, because we discovered that a lot of people are being bad examples to the youths, and as they learn, they are not learning to make Nigeria better in future. While learning, somebody said, we are going in cycle. What we have been the same. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think most important thing, we need to define the elites. Our major problem is in Nigeria is elites, or are elites. We are aware elites, let me define the elites. A group of persons considered to be superior to others because of their intelligence, social stand, educated, whatever, or ability to be closer to the government. I think our major problem are elites. And unfortunately, we have no standard in our education. Remember what we used to have in the early 70s, 80s. You find out religious, I can remember there is Islamic religion and Christianity. Whether you are Muslim or you are Christian, you are going to be taught about it. Today, that has been eroded. You find out youth are growing violently. The elites today have capitalized on us because we are poor. The poverty has already eaten us. They continue to be on power because they want to maintain they want to be in power today and everywhere. You find out they continue to recycle themselves, their sisters, their brothers within that cycle. Today, if you can see, all the infrastructures in the country has been eroded. Where is strategic? It is planned, because the other youth or those that are not part of them, they cannot access those structures, schools, health, what have you. You find out all those institutions now has been commercialized. They stole the money, they bought those things, they bought almost all the infrastructures. Take it, NITAL, what do you call it, PSCN, almost all the structures, they have acquired them. So now you are becoming a beggar every day, and our youth has no future. The fact is, we must, I'm sorry to be, the fact is we must face the reality and we must fight it. The issue of infrastructure, you look at it, go to the local government, go to the state, you find out most of the infrastructure are no longer there, but they are coming gradually, they are acquiring those infrastructure. They are putting as a public schools, public health, owned by them. Why? Because they want to continue to be in power. They want to manipulate. They want to manipulate the whole system. Let's go to the religious leaders and what have you. Your child you cannot afford to pay your child school fees or his health. Any other person that come and if he can provide it to you, you willingly accept him, depending on your faith, right? Okay. But about 70 to 80%, everybody will embrace it. And if he comes back tomorrow, you cannot preach back to him. There's an example that comes in. Just last few weeks ago, somebody went to one malam. He asking that he has a problem. What's that problem? He wants to win a contract. The malam said, fine. Bring this. He lists those things to him. He brought those things to him. The contract came out, the man lost. He came back to him. He said, you have dashed it to God now, so let's look for the next time. So you found out they continue to, the religious leader continue to manipulate, and they continue to manipulate them too. He's coming back, the next time again, he will still come back. Let's take, for example, of politics. They will come and tell you that this is what is happening. If I come, I'll build road, I'll build this too. You collect. You follow line, they give you 10, 100 naira. You vote. By the time they win, you will never see them until the next 4 years. And when they come back, they'll still give you the 100 and you still collect it. Why? Because you don't have it. So what I'm saying is we need to fight our mind.
Thank you very much.
Let's fight our mind. Then I have some few solutions. Well, this one is a general solution.
We are preparing the youth.
Yeah. Well, not on youth. We need to make the judiciary independent, not an order independent. It has to be independent. The two agencies, that's anti-corrupt, AFCC and IPC. I think we need to streamline them. We need to streamline them. We need to have a focus. What do you want them to do? What is our problem? I mean, what I'm saying, the elites decide what it is. Once you are a president or you have opportunity to be on power, you are a friend, okay, you create another institution, you give it to him. Not mind what that institution is going to. Your interest is to put that your man there. We need to check out those things. Let's have a focus on the institutions we need to build. Well, somebody have mentioned the issue of plea bargain. Though the man has already given us, they are working on it. We need to look at that plea bargain. It's very, very important. Then we need to go back to our go back to basis. The issue of our curriculum. We don't have one unified curriculum. Due to this commercialization of what do you call it? Commercialization of schools. We don't have one unified curriculum. Thank you very much.
Yeah. You see, Professor Omololu had talked about the elite being a problem. I know we can repeat ourselves, but when we give you a particular thing, don't be shocked. Go to that area. We just want to cover the area of ethnicity, religious manipulation, leadership, preparation of the youth. We are trying to cover it. So please follow what I ask you. Now, he has talked about education of the youth is too high. That's what he's saying. It's too high because the proprietors of religious institutions exploit the people. So you can hardly train a child in the way you want that child to be trained. And then he's talking about harmonization of the curriculum. Thank you. We move on now to Akani. Who is representing Akani here? Okay. Your name again. Okay, Reverend Elisha. Reverend Dr. Elisha. Now, you would lead us and throw some light on the area of leadership preparation. We are preparing the youth for leadership so that we may not find our offsprings in future facing same problems as we are facing today. How do we go about it? Yes.
Thank you very much, the chairman. I'm representing the Akani. Yes. So, I was just told here to get prepared. So, let me see the best I can do as I try to approach it this way. Let me say that the elite, to me, I'm thinking of the governance, those deciding for us, the judiciary, the religious leaders, and the elders of this country. Failure of any country or organization is the failure of leadership, who have refused to influence the led positively, taking people to where they are, to where they should be. But because our leaders don't care, but are selfish, only focus on self, religious affiliation, and the way to loot, how can the blind lead the blind? Religion is the greatest instrument to build a nation. The same religion can be an instrument of destruction, destroying the nation. In Nigeria, sentiment has been attached to our religious practices already. Let me categorically therefore say that the inability to reduce corruption in our country is caused by religious leaders who have refused to influence their members with their supposedly the word of God. We preach our words and call them words of God. Change can therefore never take place if true word of God is not adhered to. Except we go back to the basis, therefore, the Muslim take up Quran and interpret it correctly. The Christian take up the Bible to correctly interpret it, to instill fear of God from childhood to adulthood. Our country is yet to face the worst corruption for our children who are watching us. Our culture, therefore, if I'm to look back, would see that somehow our culture instills some discipline, some morals, that the church and Islam that are supposed to have done better, somehow, somewhere, we failed. So, see how religion is being used for political power. In elections, appointments, etc., we ask, is he a Muslim? Is he a Christian? We don't ask, can he deliver? Is he corrupt? Personal questions that comes from the fear of God that should lead us to elect people who fear God to lead us. We have failed. So we ask, sometimes when we look at ethnicity, we ask, where does he come from? If we don't talk of religion, we talk of where he comes from. One major factor that has made our country to be what it is the issue of godfatherism. Godfatherism is eating up this country. I want to believe that there are people who decide what happens to this country. And until we put God first, then we'll continue to be in problem. One other thing I have seen here is the eye service syndrome. The eye service syndrome in our religious groups, ethnic groups, our country must deal with it. For example, those that started the program here, sir, when we started this program, the entire place was filled up. But where are they? And most of the people who are not here are the leaders. They are the ones leading us. They need to be here to hear us. Yes, they need to hear us. They need to create this time so that our country can be changed. But since they are not here, the likelihood that this will not change. How many policies have we come up with? Have they been implemented? How many meetings of such have we conducted? Has there been any change? I think we are still in a problem. Let me try to suggest and to answer the question, where did we get it wrong? I said, the manipulation of schools, asking of where we got it wrong. Let's ask why did the government collected the schools owned by the religious groups that were instilling godliness? Why should our country that is religious struggle with curriculum that teaches Christian and Islamic values? I recommend therefore that we may not or we must not allow teachers who learn CRK, IRK as a subject to even teach Christian values or Islamic values in our schools. Let the religious groups appoint those who are supposed to teach their own values. Because we approach it by those who truly worship God, not those who just learn it in school. And that can help change what happens to our children.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Failure of any organization is the failure of leadership available to it. Religious leaders must instill fear of God if they really believe in that religion, not hired people who can teach religion. Instead of asking for integrity or looking for integrity and merit, Nigerians normally ask, is he Muslim, is he Christian? Then the godfatherism is also a problem. I sponsor you, must be loyal to me. Then he is not happy that people summon this kind of crucial meeting, but they look at themselves as above board, and they ask us to deliberate, and we cannot do much because when we submit our findings and resolutions, they may put them aside, and Nigeria will continue to be the same. You don't know what to say, Oga? Yes, sir. Thank you. Right, then we move to Abubakar. The other one, I don't know how to spell it, Sadiq. Right. Abubakar Sadiq. We want to hear you. What do you think of this manipulation of religion, ethnicity, leading children, preparing them for the future so that we can have better Nigeria? What do you say?
Thank you very much, sir.
That's the only lady in our midst.
Yes, sir.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
I'm here representing Abubakar Sadiq for the Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs. Okay. Well, starting with the elites or elites, we all know that the problem of this nation starts with them. I'm sorry to say, because who are they? They are the owners of political parties. They are the political appointees, the jobbers, and even the manipulators. They deceive our people this political elites or elitist group, and show it that what in fact does not suit them, they will deceive you to think that it is good. They manipulate people. And, you know, in terms of political office or candidacy, they will also go mobilize the religious group and the traditional institution to support their interests through bribery and patronage. They are active in the churches, in the mosque. In fact, they are the most outspoken. They donate generously to all community functions, and they use the leaders, the political class, the religious group to gain cheap popularity in their places of worship and get support. We have noticed also that they also use the religious leaders and the traditional institution during political seasons to mobilize people for them. And these people, they mobilize for them. After some time, when they have achieved whatever they want, what do? In fact, even the guns they give out, they don't bother to collect them back. All they are after is what they have achieved. And they leave these guns in the hands of the people that they manipulated to vote for them, who have turned into thugs, and thereby, thereafter, these people keep on terrorizing the society, either through robbery or being insurgents and terrorism. We also found that the ignorant poor masses, because of the way we are in Nigeria, you know, we want to be our brother's keepers and all that. We don't see anything wrong or corrupt in what this elitist group do. And because they benefit from them, from the stolen wealth, but they have no choice but to regard the enemies of this political group and elitists as their own enemies. We also have found that they are the ones that will be making political statements in the churches and in the mosque, inciting people. It is from these churches and mosques you first hear policies that shouldn't be. So we want to say that people should please, the solutions to this is that people should please desist from whatsoever it is a politician brings to you in order to achieve his aggrandism. Religious leaders should declare their assets. Pastors, imams in church, in mosques, when they are appointed, we should go as far as making them declare their assets.
Right? Okay.
No policy statements, please, should be done in the places of worship. Imam pastors should be seen delivering discussing contemporary issues like corruption, and trying to, in places like Sunday school, the Islamia, teaching our youth, our children, telling them the evil in all these corrupt ways. Okay. They should do that, but not after doing that, they not go back and start preaching prosperity. We should know that it is said in one of the hadiths of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Kullum ra'in wa kullum mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi." Everyone is a guidance to his followers, and he is responsible for them.
Thank you very much.
Please, I think I have to say something about the youth briefly.
Okay.
Yes.
Just a minute.
Because they are, whether we like it or not, as I said this morning, our children are our foundation. We are here correcting ourselves. Where are the children? It is a duty of us, the parents, to take care of these children, to start the foundation, teaching children what is good. And the parents are held responsible for this. If you have a bad society, particularly mothers, we are told by the hadith that if you look at a society and the society is good, you look at the women. If the society is bad, you look at the women, because a woman is closer to her children. That 9 months you use in carrying the baby in your stomach, That 2 years that you have been instructed to breastfeed the child has made you so close to this child that whatever you tell your child, the child will adhere. And so from the beginning, if we instill this moral training on our children, the society is better for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. She has gone to say elite, not only reach the religious leaders, but the community leaders are being reached with their money. The elite and politicians teach our young ones the use of guns. And sometimes these guns are there after the political era or campaign period had finished. Then the youth use this to terrorize the people in the village and towns. The society allowed them to do this. Those who are in money, because they need money too, including the religious leaders. That's why she advocates that religious leaders should also declare their assets. And we can't argue with her, because when you hear election among Christians and among Muslims of who becomes the can leader or the JNI leaders, they are targeting something in future. And everybody has that at the back of his mind, that if the government doesn't succumb, one day is coming when they were looking for our vote, they will succumb, they will know where we are. And you become what you should be. But if you declare asset and after the election, and then they discover that you have now put up another story building somewhere, they say, Oga, you have really dabaru your work. So that's what it is. We should go according to our call. Thank you very much. The only lady in our midst. Another time we'll have two ladies. Thank you so much. I will move to Dr. Charles Abani. Because, is he here? Yes. Oh, thank you very much. We want to hear you on this particular issue, elite manipulation of religion, ethnicity, leadership preparation of our youth. What do you see?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Two corrections first. One, I'm a mister, not a doctor. I know in the Senate they challenged one person who repeatedly did not challenge his doctor title. So I'm a mister. Secondly, although I work as a USAID contractor, I don't speak on the behalf of the U.S. government. I speak as a Nigerian affected by these issues.
They changed doctor to Mr. Charles Bani.
Yes, and please, if any media people don't say this is USAID's position, it is not. It is my position as a Nigerian. I mean, a lot has been said, and I'm going to try and avoid repeating what has been said, save to say things that I have to say every single time. Nigeria are the biggest problems with Nigerians. And so the notion that somehow, once you point a finger, remember that three are pointing at you. Nigerians want change, but we don't want to change. We want everybody else to change, but which is why you see a pervasion of language around they. They is a way in which we externalize a problem from ourselves and refuse to take responsibility. And ethnicity and religion are places where this really, really plays out. And clearly, at the heart of this is about attitudes and beliefs. Somebody has already talked about political will. But at the same time, it's about personal will. And so when Mr. President says the change begins with you, and you say, no, sir, it begins with you, you've already mortgaged your political will personally because you're saying it doesn't begin with you, it begins with someone else. So, I mean, I guess just to set some context for this, for me, particularly because these religion and ethnicity are so important, I would also venture to say that Nigeria has never been as divided as it is now. And so actually this is a big problem. It's much bigger than we think. Amartya Sen, who won his Nobel Prize for his work on development as freedom, probably didn't contend with Nigerians when he was writing that piece. Another piece he wrote, which is very, very fundamental, if you haven't read it, is about identity and violence. And the way in which singular identities result in fundamentalisms. And I use the word fundamentalisms because there are many fundamentalisms, and there are many of them that manifest themselves here in Nigeria. That contestation for resources, which is, I guess, at the heart of politics, and the failure of the Nigerian state to regulate that process is really why people have vacated the space of the state and gone to these alternative spaces of ethnicity and religion as the spaces in which they can function to continue that battle, which then results in it coming back, oh, we are from this side, you are from that side. And one might almost argue that there is an alternative state in religious institutions to the extent that they have equal influence, as we saw recently in the case the professor spoke about, where a state has a regulatory process in which religious institutions are able to significantly influence it and change the course that it should have followed. And recently I read an article that, and I tend to agree with it, that actually the way we operate religion in Nigeria, actually religious institutions are possibly as far away from God as we have been at any particular point in time. And therefore, actually belief in God and belief in the values around God and practice of religion can almost be put in two separate buckets. That's how far we have perverted this process. Commercialization of religion without any commensurate regulation in place. I mean, the Honorable Chair has talked about the fact that people of religion are also human beings. Well, if they are human beings, then they are subject to the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, full stop. And so it shouldn't be a discussion in which you, therefore, because you're a religious leader, you are no longer subject to the laws of this land. Value asymmetry. There are those who describe religious institutions as mere laundry houses, laundromats, in fact, for Nigerians to process corrupt, ill-gotten gains through. They are institutions that perpetrate and visibly talk about hatred. Some of the worst hate speech in this country comes from religious institutions and ethnic institutions. They practice exclusion. In a country where we are striving for inclusion, religion is driving exclusion. If you are not this, you are out. In fact, to the point that unless you are at a particular level in some churches, you can't get access to contracts even within the church. These are known facts. And of course, corruption goes without saying. So effectively, we have seen an alternate patronage system emerge, where even patronage within the government itself is driven by a patronage system around ethnicity and religion itself outside the church. And more importantly, and this speaks to the youth, a sense of emerging paralysis. And I'll just give you two quotes. It is my portion. Nothing is your portion unless you worked for it. Nothing is your portion. This, I claim it in Jesus' name. You can't claim anything in Jesus' name. I'm sorry. You must work for it. The idea that it is God's will. So I don't have to work. I'll just wait for God to bring this thing to come for me. And these things are so pervasive that on Facebook you see someone saying, put a picture of money and say, this money will be yours. Just type amen. And they'll type. And then we are talking about, but somebody told them to think like this. And yet we are worried. And this is why I say this is a problem, because we're all laughing. But this is the pervasive mindset that we have used religion and ethnicity to generate in this country. Such a distortion of values that we don't have any values left anywhere. And even on issues of ethnicity, we find that we are able to dance around them. Sometimes I can come from the north as well as the south. I can come from the east as well as the west. I can even have a double-barreled name that allows me to be both a Muslim and a Christian. And so we have almost bastardized everything to the point. And one has to then say, well, if the state has failed to implement systems that fairly and equitably, and equity is a key word I want to talk about when I come to solutions now, because I think, there are those who argue about, well, you can't have federal character because federal character doesn't promote excellence. You promote excellence only. But the truth of the matter is, if you promote excellence only, then you ignore historical disadvantage. And so it is not one or the other. It is actually how we find an equitable system that enables us all to live equally in this country before we can put these in the rightful space. So what are some of the kind of things that we need to do? Somebody has talked about education. And indeed, you know, earlier on, Professor, you alluded to we should hire people on the basis of their competence and their qualifications. Well, corruption is in qualifications. So actually, competence and qualification don't mean the same thing. There are many people whose PhD is not a doctorate of philosophy, but permanent head damage, resulting from bad education and also corrupt education. It is an educational institution, permanent head damage, PhD. Head damage. They have acquired their PhD through corruption. And so the mere existence of a set of qualifications does not guarantee competence in this nation state anymore. So we need education that actually drives critical thinking. And on religion, I will say this. It's either we don't teach religion at all, or in all schools, we teach both Christian religion and Islamic religion side by side so that every Nigerian learns about everybody else's religion and can learn how to tolerate each other. I think that is the truth.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we must talk about values, and we've removed history from our education. Again,
thank you, sir.
I have to say my point. Sorry, sir. I came here prepared.
Thank you, sir.
I will say them, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I have to say them because I'm coming to regulation of religious space. I think that we do need regulation of serious space.
People are complaining. So if you regard me as a chairperson, then thank you very much. He said, not a particular group of persons should be blamed, but all Nigerians should be blamed. He also said that, which is also found in the Bible, your thoughts are not my thoughts. That the thinking of some of the religious leaders are not the thinking of God. He said you have to work in order to attain the desired position, and not just thinking that when you pronounce or you cancel, it happens that way. You are not a magician. It doesn't work that way. And you cannot control God. And finally, which we have learned today, PhD doesn't mean
doesn't necessarily
mean doctor of philosophy, but permanent health damage. All right. Thank you, sir. No wonder they attach doctorate to your name, and you said no. Okay, Chief of Party, U.S. Aid, SAC. That's that one. Now we go to Honor. Is Honor here? Right, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's quite unfortunate that I know when it will be my time, everybody will be eager to move for prayer. It's unfortunate we've wasted some time. But I will try to be as fast as possible, and I still try to make a few points that are very important to my heart. Well, the topic before me, which I saw, is elite manipulation of religion and ethnicity and leadership preparation of youth. Well, the nature of elite is not a Nigerian phenomenon. It's a global issue. Let us not look at it that it is the Nigerian elite that have been doing issues pertaining to manipulation. First, religion, by its nature and its practice. I'm grateful to God that I have experienced almost the three major religions in Nigeria. One, my grandfather was a traditionalist. My direct biological parents were Catholic Christians, and in the university I studied Islam. And it has qualified me to understand what all of us may believe in. You see, the truth there is that from onset, we've not told ourselves the truth about our religions. we have cherished keeping the facts silent just because we really want to create problems, confusion, because we succeed in confusion. That's why people today say there is Christians and there are Muslims. They were not supposed to be a divided house because they are coming from the same source, if truth must be told. Those who are scholars know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, most of us who claim to be religious practitioners have not even studied well enough to know the religions we practice and to know the similarities and where they are coming from. And we defend it to the point of going to the field to battle and to fight without even knowing what we're fighting for. If I tell you today, part of that thing called manipulation is this. What has been manipulated? The truth has been manipulated just to make all of us the fools. Have anybody been told in the Christian church where I was born that Prophet Muhammad, God be with him, at the age of 12, can anybody sincerely say where he went to first on the caravan trade mission? What happened when he went there with his uncle Abu Talib? And what did he ask for when he said, let him go for sightseeing? Which area attracted him? And was he invited in there? And who was the first woman who saw the burning flame on his forehead? Was he not a Christian? And was he not that nun that came and saw that he was a chosen vessel through which God's message shall be preached to his people in Arabia? If truly a Christian at that age of 12 in the life of the prophet saw in him a God, somebody who carried the divine furnace, why should anybody stand here today to say a Christian does not accept Prophet Muhammad? It is all based on lies we have been feeding ourselves all over the world. Now, on the same basis, when he was finally taken into the monastery of Syria, who owns the monastery? Have you told your followers the truth? How did the 5 times prayer start? And when Abu Talib finally sought for him for 7 days and found him in the midst of the monks as the first Arabian monk in a Catholic monastery, when he returned, when he was said to go from the monastery, Abu Talib came. Did he accept to leave? He did not accept to leave because he had found truth. And eventually, when he returned and was persuaded, if he does not go home to Mecca, Abu Talib will be accused of having sold his little cousin or thereabout into slavery. And they were permitted on the basis of that particular truth, and he returned. He was to set up the first place for prayer, which should be a secluded place for prayer. Was he not in Mount Hira cave? And as a matter of fact, who have been told all this truth? We like to create confusion. It's not Nigeria that did it. It is a global phenomenon. Because we like to live in division. We like to create confusion, and so that we can be benefiting economically. But that be the case, that is the origin and the foundation of this manipulation we're talking about, so that we know the depth of manipulation. And so the building of unity should be, and going back to the basis to understand the fundamental facts, so that people can live together as one. Now,
thank you. Move
on the keywords.
2 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Then we look at issues of ethnicity. Ethnicity. There are 2 aspects of ethnicity before us here. One, we're even looking at our native tribes, possibly Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, Jukun, Efik, and what have you, all over the country, Nupe, Biron. But again, those ones will have been a big problem for us. Today, if you watch well, you ask a Nigerian who is a Nigerian citizen, are you from where? He say, Ana Arabish. If you are an Arab, what are you doing in West Africa? Now, the other person says he's a Jew. If you are a Jew, what are you doing in Nigeria? And the other person says, Mambila people in Plateau say they are from South Africa.
Those who are going out are going for prayer, please. So allow them. There's religious freedom.
Yes.
They have to go for prayer.
Now, the TV group will have in their history that they followed the Chinese monkey to enter Nigeria. Then the other group will say the Nok are from Egypt. So that means we are all visitors. So who owns Nigeria? So ethnicity, we know. We know.
Right?
We know. See, listen, we are coming.
To the line. Come to the line.
We are talking of the manipulations. Listen and get the point.
Come to the line so that you don't step on somebody's toe.
We are not stepping on anybody's toe. We are telling the truth.
We don't step on somebody's toe. Come to the point and round up solution.
Mr. Chairman, please.
Solution.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not stepping on anybody's toe. I'm saying the truth which brought me here because we are fighting corruption.
Yes.
Even the corrupted history. So the truth there is that as we all are here, it is good for us to realize that we have a nation. Patriotism is something that should be taught even in our school system. Let me go, because of lack of time, to state that one of the major things that we should eschew from our socio-political system in Nigeria is the issue of origin, state of origin. Originship is an atavistic issue. If we start tracing origin, it will be very difficult to establish. Let us remember that we are building a modern society, a modern state, where state of birth should protect every Nigerian child so that you can grow and be comfortable that whichever part of the country you are born into shall remain your state. Because this originship have been dividing us seriously, and it is part of that manipulation. Then the youth cannot grow outside the environment in which they are being groomed. One way we should all agree that we should begin to grow in understanding is that the Nigerian youth is the product of the Nigerian society. To prepare them for leadership means we shall actually get back to our educational system. One, education should be affordable. We've talked about people who are saying return back schools to the missionaries. That's a good idea if only we can now see what the missionary schools have turned into now. Can a person practicing a particular religion afford to send his child as an ordinary member of that religious group to that kind of school where you are paying 300,000 naira per term? Because I'm sure that if Prophet Muhammad was to be here and to set up a school by himself, no child will pay 300,000 in his school. In the same way, our Lord Jesus Christ, who said, "Let children come close to me," cannot afford to say a child coming to his school will pay 400,000 naira just in a term. What is the income per capita? How can the average Nigerian afford that kind of a money if we are thinking of stopping corruption?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. In summary, before we allow the audience to participate, the problem we have in Nigeria is covering the truth, and it is a global phenomenon. That's what he said. Not just a particular set of people. It's a global phenomenon by using religion to cover the truth. Number two, he says manipulation here means twisting the fact that religion has. Three, he gave historical background of a religion. Then the issue of state of origin should be removed from our forms. A Nigerian is a Nigerian. Wherever you are born, where were you born? So please. Yes, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. And then, if you are talking or advocating for handing over of schools to the original owners, especially to mission schools, to the churches and private organizations, to the schools, to the private organizations. You must address the issues of school fees, because otherwise you do that, nobody will go to school. They don't have that money. Parents do not have that money. The only thing he didn't add is, why do they go to private schools? Why are people looking for private schools? The point is that when you send your child and you say he's going to be there for 4 years, he's there for 4 years, and he comes back to you as a graduate. When you send him to public or government schools, he stays there for the 7 years. And so by the time he comes back, his age of employment has passed. And so he has to go to the court to declare, to bring another declaration of age, which is also corruption. That's the problem. So you will look for money and send your child to where he should go and come out. Well, I'm saying this because I'm a father of 7. So, and I know what I'm passing through. Thank you. Now, we now allow the audience to talk. Yes, I will start from here. Like the other man said, one, only one here. One that way. Okay. Now, okay. One, you can help me. If you say, all right. Now, I saw one in black suit. No. Look at me, yes. That's you. And I saw somebody here. You are wearing the same thing. All right. Now, 2 there. 2 there, please. We move to this place. Straight my front. Yes, the gentleman there, white, in white. The 2 white. The cameramen are not allowing me to see you. All right. I say 2 here also. Then I move here. Then, the man who says he's here with a special cap. All right. All right. Now, a lady and a youth. A lady and a youth. I see one lady. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Okay.
Please, the chairman is controlling this.
Prof, I see a lady there and a youth. What is a youth? Under what age? Under what age? All right. So 2 here. 2 here.
2 here.
2 here. That's 6, sir.
6. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So who are the 2 here? I have a stopwatch. I'm timing you 1 minute, please. Look at the stopwatch. It's not feeble.
And it's now 1:30.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and colleagues here. I have just 2 things to say quickly. If we're actually going to address the issue of corruption in Nigeria, we need to start from getting our youth full employment, get them fully employed. Because there's a saying that an idle hand definitely is going to become the devil's workshop. And for ants that are idle, these ants definitely become the political manipulation of our leaders, the political leaders. They tend to make use of them into so many things, bring them into politics to do manipulations, take them to the election booths and begin to do a lot of things. That is number 1. I believe that when our youths are fully engaged, fully employed, of course, there will be little or no time for them to get involved in all of this kind of a thing. 2, the situation in Nigeria is very, very serious and requires a radical approach. Our leaders, they know that corruption is done with impunity, and as a result, they can do anything they like. Let us make these offices unattractive. What do I mean? Look at the allowances. Look at the salaries. As if the people in question, they are not even Nigerians. By the time we break down of those bureaucracies, the salaries that they think is so exorbitant, the allowances, it becomes unattractive. And what happens? People tend to have little or no interest and begin to pursue their careers. Thank you.
right? He's talking about the employment of the youth.
It's a pity, Mr. Chairman, that since yesterday, most of us come with papers and we are not even allowed to talk about resolution. But I want to talk about education. We are talking about the education of youth, preparing the future leaders. We lay more emphasis on qualification attainment rather than mind education. There's a curriculum throughout the world now. They are training the mind. The mind, when you control the mind of a person, you have captured the man. You know, we are not focusing on mind education. And that's why psychology of somebody who put dollars and pounds inside the cupboard, you know, is unimaginable in a civilized society. You know, so we need to orientate and get the examples of what is happening now in Ethiopia. They are one of the poorest country before, but within the last 2-3 years, they are developing at rapid rate because they are copying what the South Korea did. They first orientate everybody, and you have to use the teachers because they are influencer. They can affect children, they can affect parents, they can affect everybody. So that's how we can start, you know, in order to eradicate this corruption.
Education of the mind.
Who is number 3, sir?
They are all in white. That one, the first one, yes.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. The issue of corruption, let us look at these service providers, the MTN, the Global, the Glo, and all the rest. Unsolicited text messages, they seem to be uncontrollable. Nobody can control them in this country. No. And how? Why? It's because of the elite who owns this thing, these outfits. Because you go to them, go to the offices, they say they will block it. Before you leave the office, they are sending you another message. So how do we handle that? Elites, they are the one behind. Someone said Nigerians are a problem of themselves. And how do we do this? It should be tackled. Let us take it from that angle. Secondly, about the youth, we talk about the values and the norms. I want to see the youth that we have this day that we want to trek to office. If he or she is employed for after 3 months or 4 months, the next thing is to look for how he's going to get a car. Oh, yes. And he's not going to get a Volkswagen, like some of us started with.
Volkswagens are no longer.
Yeah, I'm just using that one as an example. Yeah, and finally, I don't like the issue of taxing the religious houses. Because, no, listen, the thing is this. If you, as a religious organization, your congregations pay tax, they pay various taxes in their own individual places. The only ones that I support, yes, the pastors, those who are investing with people's money to enrich their pockets, you can tax them.
To buy plane.
Yes. Yes, that for now, that is it.
Right?
Oh, so we are
you hear him? Values.
Okay, please. I want to talk about the issue of preaching against corruption in churches. I think the church does not exist in isolation. It exists in the society. And whatever is affecting the society will equally affect the church. So therefore, pastors can talk and preach against corruption. William Wilberforce went into the parliament to sponsor a bill to stop, to abolish slave trade. So if he stayed at home and said, no, I cannot talk about it, the Spirit has not brought the topic to me, I think the slavery will not be abolished. So we can talk about the ill of the society. What of Mary's lesson? She talked about the killing of trees in Calabar and she stopped it. So whatever is affecting us negatively, let us rise and talk about it. The second one, and do something about it. The second one, it is unnecessary fanaticism. When a Muslim is corrupt or a Christian is corrupt, whether Christian or Muslim, corruption is corruption. Let us call a spade a spade. It's just like I want to give an illustration. One Ololu in Ibadan, that's a good now. A woman is not supposed to see him. But he was crossed by a runaway driver, a hit and runaway driver. And was advised that the woman, the medical doctor on duty was a woman. And how then the woman, a woman cannot see that masquerade. So,
masquerades are not human beings, so they are spirits.
The masquerade was advised. If you don't go there, you will die. So you better remove that thing or you and go there. So the man has to appear there before the woman to be treated. So what I'm saying in essence is that whether it's a Muslim or a Christian, a competent man is a competent man. Let us vote him. Let us allow him to lead us. And you'll see we'll get a result. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Who is
we
number
say,
from this
we
side?
say the one who followed the masquerade. You don't declare the masquerade. It's a taboo.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, sir. In preparing the youth for leadership, you see, the key thing here is the wealth. And those people who are the custodians of wealth are the eldest and the aged. So it is very difficult for the youth to come on board. And the worst part of it is that when you look at the former Nigeria, what was the age of General Obasanjo when he came to lead us first? What was the age of President Muhammadu Buhari? What was the age of Gowon? But today, we'll be sending names of 85-year-old, 80-year-old to be cleared by National Assembly for appointment. How do we then empower our youth to lead Nigeria? So there is no preparation. We have not prepared our youth that hard work pays. And that is why today youth are falling prey for Ponzi scheme, looking for cheap money to make, and at the end, they lose. And lastly, there must be a deliberate economic empowerment of our youth if Nigeria must change. Because youth are the only people who can revive Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, the lady. Huh? I thought the youth has
Thank you very much. I stand on the existing protocol. He has actually articulated what I want to say. But just to add, looking at the hall from yesterday to now we're talking about preparing leadership preparation of youth. Yeah. How many youths do we have here? None. The percentage is not even up to 1. Then look at the panel. There have been no youth in any of the panel, starting from yesterday till now. Are you saying we don't have youth that who are capable to represent the interests of the youth? No. Or is it only the ones that are of 60s, 50, who claim to be a youth that are being brought forward? You should be given a chance. How are you preparing these youth for the same leadership position? That is my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I've gone round.
So, I can just, Chairman, sir, I can just give you a minute to make a closing comment.
Prof, I hand over to you now.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Let me start by addressing the comment of the youth. You are very correct. However, we are not entirely to blame. Sometimes those who present themselves as representing the youth, when you evaluate them, they are older than your dad's age, and you begin to ask yourself, what is going on? The selection for our panelists was not done entirely by us. We asked the various organizations we were partnering with to nominate. We asked them to. So those who spoke for NLC were nominated by NLC. Those who spoke for TUC were nominated by TUC. Those who spoke for the media were nominated by the media. Those who spoke for the faith-based were nominated by the faith-based. Now, the anomaly came from those nominations. I think that next time we'll be very specific and say, please, do gender balance, do youth balance, do this, do that. So I apologize to the youth of which I'm a member. I want to thank very much our panelists led by Archbishop Job, because he took the assignment last minute and tried and made a good job of it, because we were pressured for time. I want to thank the panelists, including those who have had to go for prayers. I apologize to some of our Muslim brothers, because I said we would try and finish this for 1:30 so that everybody will be part of the conversation. But we still have some of them here. Now, many people have asked me next steps. First, if you have a smartphone by now and you left a correct email address, by now you must have received from our secretariat all the papers that we have soft copies of. If you have received, please raise your hand. Thank you. If you haven't received, you either are still using Nokia 3310 or you are using a phone that is not internet compatible, which is the same thing as using Nokia 3310. Now, or you did not correctly put down your email address. All those who gave us their email addresses, we have emailed them the papers that are ready. We have articulated all of the various suggestions that have been made. Somebody said, that's the website on there. You can join the conversation on Facebook or Twitter. For many of the organizations, when we wrote, we gave a contact email address. You can still send submissions to those email addresses. When we articulate all of the suggestions, we will email back to the various constituent groups that have been a part of this conversation. And we'll give you some time to make your comments. If we do not hear from you, we will take this to the next step. Take the summary of the key things that came out. There won't be too many, because sometimes when you give too many recommendations to government, then none will be done. They will be small. And then we can send as advisories and try to follow up to make sure that they are implemented. I want to thank all those who have joined the panel. Professor Lulu Shoyombo from Unilag, my friend Mr. Charles Abani. That doctor must have been native medicine that was put in front of his name. So remove the doctor and put Mr. Charles Abani. The representative of CAN, let me check the name again. Dr. Elisha Solomon, Reverend Job, Archbishop Job, and my friend who is of all the faiths, Hippolytus Honor. Thank you very much. And those who have left for prayers in absentia. Okay. He was being covered by, sorry, sir, Comrade Emma Ugwaja. In absentia, Comrade Asa Anka and Ustaz Abubakar Sadiq was represented. And all of you have been very wonderful audience. Thank you very much. Sir. We will think about it. Okay. Okay, sir. The panel is stepping down. I want to thank all of you for being a part of this conversation. It's been very good and very useful. Please, lunch is served. Follow the smell of the food. Please, as we join the queue, there are some Muslims who are still here who will take lunch. Can we give them priority to get their food quickly and go for prayers? Thank you very much.
Corruption goes beyond looting of public treasury. It permeates all spheres of our daily lives, beginning from the home front and spread to the larger society. And wrapping up the national dialogue on corruption, topics such as elite manipulation of religion and ethnicity, and leadership preparation for the youth was thoroughly explored by panelists from the academia, civil society, the organized labor, and the Nigerian Union of Journalists, as well as faith-based group. And it is on that note we drop the curtains on the live telecast of events of the closing ceremony of the National Dialogue and Corruption put together by the Office of the Vice President